through all of the word charades and games of Scott Boras, he did say a phrase that was a lot more clear to understand, but maybe complex about how Orioles fans are going to take it. And Zach, I think you know where I'm going with this. I'll let you lead it in.
Yeah, Scott Boras was asked about the Baltimore Orioles today, and he said their approach. He said they're going to be one of the more active clubs in free agency for sure. Now, listen, I'm not naive. I've heard this. The birds have feathered up in 2022. We got that line from Boras. We've gotten in 23 that they're going to be, at the top of the list for everyone. So he's not saying that the Orioles are getting superstars. He's not saying, hey, every top guy is going to be looking at Baltimore. He's saying they're going to be active. Where they're active, we're not sure. Is it going to be in the top of the free agency pool? Is it going to be that middle tier? Is it going to be maybe some depth pieces? Didn't specify, but it feels like as people have talked to either Mike Elias, reporters around the industry, we had Tim Kirchin on who gave the exact same sentiment as Boras did here, saying, yeah, the Orioles, they're going to be active because they have to be. They can't just sit back and be like, oh, 2025 was a fluke. Oh, we can run it back and we're going to be good. Tim Kirchin yesterday said, like, hey, Blue Jays figured it out. Like, the Red Sox are really good. The Yankees are the Yankees. Like, this is a AL East that you can't just run it back and hope, if we win 84 games next year, if we win 86 games next year, we can make the playoffs. You got to spend to compete in this division, and I think this is the year that the Orioles are going to have to dish out some money. So, Scott Boras, take what he says with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, that is probably the most powerful man in Major League Baseball. If we're being honest, I don't think it's really a debate these days. But Scott Boras saying that he expects the Orioles to be one of the more active clubs in free agency. So, I think Oriole fans, there's a mixed reaction, especially on Twitter of, hey, we've seen this before, but there is also that hope. So, Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that fans are not going to believe it until they see it. It doesn't matter what the verbiage is, doesn't matter. The phrase right now, Zach, is actions are going to speak louder than words. Well, we've heard the words again. Now it's going to be the action. Do you actually go and make the move? And look, by the way, we understand this, and if you don't, let me try to do my best to explain it. In all of sports, you can work on deals and you can understand that it might not happen. Like last year, Corbin Burns, that was an uphill battle because he wanted to go back to Arizona. Does it mean that the Orioles didn't offer him a favorable offer? No, he didn't take it. He went back home, and that was it. And that's fine. The problem, at least for Baltimore this year, is you can't be complacent. Not complacent. You can't be hesitant.
I guess complacent.
Okay, so maybe complacent, hesitant.
Yeah.
You can't not that you have to be so reactionary to moves, but if you have a list of guys that you want, you need to be as proactive as possible and understand that there's a chance that certain guys might have to be overpaid, and there are certain guys that might have to be more prioritized. Because as we get to the winter meetings, last year when I was down there, Zach, in Dallas, it was slow to start, right? And then the first day, deals started to pick up, and some big deals happened, right? It was Soto, it was Fried, and then you feel the pressure start to kick in. And so for the Orioles, with the amount of guys that they have, and the trade market right now too, which we'll get to, you want to feel like you're on one side of that when it happens. And I think that for the Orioles, I would say there's got to be maybe 5 guys that you need to prioritize of who you're really looking at, value how that's going to be, and then be ready to have that secondary group, because there's going to be a ton of free agents, Zach, that are going to be free agents well past winter meetings, and they're going to be sitting and waiting for an opportunity. But if you want any of these higher tiered guys, you're going to have to make an offer. Like, and this is the when the Cody Bellinger sign, that's going to make a move for the next player below him to go, right?
Yeah.
Or if Cody Bellinger goes, and I'm trying to think of other outfielders that are available. We talked about
obviously like I think that second tier, you're going to get more into the Harrison Baders, the Trent Grishams, the Mike Yastrzemski's, even though I would say that's probably even a tier below those guys. But I'm not going to put Kyle Tucker, Cody Bellinger, like the upper echelon of the outfielders, not putting Kyle Schwarber in there, even though that's technically what he would be playing. He will not be an outfielder. But yeah, I mean, there's going to be that second tier where you're not breaking the bank, but you can get a good quality player. I would be very intrigued by Trent Grisham. I think he's got value. I do think there's risk because he kind of had that one breakout year in New York with that short porch. But as you've also said, it's not too shabby as a lefty batting in Camden Yards either.
No, it ain't too shabby at all. But what the Orioles are going to need is that they need a little bit more right-handed thump in the lineup. They got a lot of lefties, but it's not just with the Orioles right now. I mean, it's just the big time players. They're going to dictate the market for the secondary guys. So and it's typically Boras's guys that are dictating this, right? So I just mentioned Cody Bellinger. Pete Alonso is a guy that if you want a power bat playing first, well, he's priority number one. And then after that, guess who's available? Then you have the Josh Naylors of the world and some other players like Kyle Schwarber. Also, I'd consider in that power bat position. Yeah. If he goes, Alonso goes, Bellinger goes.
I mean, even if you want to talk about like just first baseman, it's not going to be, I don't think it happens in Baltimore, but a guy that I think is going to get a nice contract is going to be also because of his versatility, Ryan O'Hearn. He's going to be in that secondary market of teams are going to be prioritizing him.
Yeah. So that's exactly the point right there, right? And so for the Orioles, you just need to be prepared. It's not just the Orioles. It's every team has to have a plan. Like, let me run through at least like in my mind, Zach, what I think the plan needs to be for the AL East teams. If you're the Yankees, priority one is sounds like you want Bellinger. He was a great fit for you. It's a good ballpark to play. If you want Belly, you got to find a way to keep him there. But then you're also wondering, how do you restructure the rest of your lineup? You're working at position players in the middle infield, second base potentially being an option. Who are you going to be willing to go out there and get? Pitching wise, the Yankees will always probably make an extra move, but they're pretty good in the pitching department. So they feel pretty solid. Now go to Boston. Boston could be aggressive for a pitcher. Pete Alonso could fit in there at going to play first base if they decide to do that, or an Alex Bregman or a Bo Bichette. So Boston is kind of in that influx where it just depends on how much they want to spend, but they have openings throughout their roster that they could really upgrade. Yeah. I don't see Tampa spending much, just how they are. Toronto will be right back in it, trying to retain Bo first and then see what else they go to get. And then there's Baltimore, where you're not looking for infielders. You're looking for outfielders and you're looking for pitching. So you need to make sure with the other teams in the American League, as well as the AL East, Zach, it's the whole American League.
Yeah.
If you like a pitcher, you got to make sure that you go get your guy. And if you do that, you'll be in a better spot because the Orioles are, in my mind, that Zach, they're not going to go after Alonso. I don't see that. They're not going to go after.
As much as I'd love it, I don't see it. And actually, Rip, I'm going to say this. I think the Orioles have, I'm not going to say an advantage, but they have a head start in this free agency over teams like Boston, New York, and Toronto because of things that you just said. Because Toronto, what's got to be the number one priority? Re-sign Bo. You need to keep Bo Bichette there. For Boston, what's going to be a priority? Okay, what are we doing with Alex Bregman? For New York, it's going to be, are we bringing back Bellinger? Is Grisham a guy? are we going to go bring back, Weaver or Devin Williams? The Orioles are really that team that they know who they're bringing back and who they're not. Like they sold all the players that were becoming free agents. They're already not back. So now they can look at their roster. They don't have to question, like if you're Boston, of, okay, do we bring Bregman back? If you're, New York, okay, do we bring Bellinger back? And what does that look like? And do we focus elsewhere first? Is that the priority? So the Orioles have a head start. They have the opportunity where they know right now what their roster looks like compared to last year, where the holes are and where they need to fill. So I think they have a slight advantage, slight head start there, but it does come down to, are you willing to spend? Are you willing to go above and beyond? Because I've said this before, I think one of the bigger things, and, this front office is very calculated. I think they very much go off of value and what they believe is fair value. And I've said this before, and I'll say it probably a million more times over my lifetime. If you are looking to get a player at their correct value in free agency, you will not get that player. You have to overpay for guys, especially in bidding wars. Guys are going to go. Teams are willing to spend, especially teams that feel like they are right on the cusp. They're going to be a little bit more aggressive. So if you're the Orioles, are you willing to get a little uncomfortable? Are you willing to give that extra 15, 20 million on a contract, even though your analytics, even though your, value chart saying, he's worth this, everything above that's a risk? Are you willing to take that and say, hey, we want to get this guy. This guy makes a difference for us. And I think that's the biggest question that's going to be answered in Baltimore.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I don't know why I want to say a boot, like the Canadian way. It's just, humor me, Zach. But the big part when you look at this, and this is kind of when I'm looking at the construction of the roster again, your question mark of your offense is going to be outfield. How are you filling out your outfield? What right-handed bats are you going to have? Because you have a lot of lefties. Jackson, Adley's a switch hitter, Basayo, Gunner, Cowser. You have a lot of lefties right now already available. Dylan Beavers on top of it. If I was the Orioles, I'm sitting here, and we've talked about this in the past, and we're going to continue to talk about it. Easy to put together your bullpen of other players, like we've seen the Dietrich Enns and Garcia, and you have Cano coming back. That's great because some guys can be better than you anticipated. But the Orioles, in my mind, they need two high leverage guys. One, or at least one, but it'd be great if they had two. So if you're looking at spending, I would go and get two high leverage guys. So if you're looking at Devin Williams, Robert Suarez, I would be aggressive on the back end high leverage relievers. And then you're looking for an outfielder or two that can fit that spot. Yeah. Because whether people like this or not, I'm cool with getting a veteran bat. I think two veteran bats would be good. But once again, it don't matter at all for the veteran bats if your young guys don't get better. And if they play well, you're going to be in a good spot. But they have to play better. And then on top of it right now, you're looking at a starting pitcher